Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DWG TV. I'm Hannah, and today I am joined by Cayci Banks, who is the Director of Communications at 1000 Feathers. Today, we're really going to be talking about understanding your digital footprint and how that can set you up to create a digital strategy with longevity for your business. So thanks for being here, Cayci.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Could you just start off by sharing a little bit about what 1000 Feathers does and what your role is there?
Sure. So 1000 Feathers was launched in 2016, so we're almost 3 years old, by Forrest Alton and Heather Brandt as a consulting firm positioned to break down the barriers between the nonprofit sector, those who fund them, and the communities they're serving, because we were seeing a real big disconnect between those three players in the nonprofit and social service field. So our tagline is vision, strategy, results. And I really think that sums up what we do in a nutshell. We are working with organizations and clients to set a vision, work towards that strategically, and then help them get to the results that they're seeking. Some of the work we do is strategic planning. Some involves community assessment and larger problem solving. And then because of my background in communications, we've really expanded our communications and marketing clientele over the past 2.5 years. So I've been involved with the organization since its launch in 2016 as the Director of Communications. Forrest and I actually worked together at the South Carolina campaign to prevent teen pregnancy. We were both there at the same time for about 10 years before I stepped away to have children to expand my family. I had twins in May of 2016, so at that time I stepped away from the organization, and just a few months later, Forrest stepped away to launch 1000 Feathers. So he called to see if I'd be willing to go into this venture with him, and of course, because of our working relationship and really the exciting clients that he was bringing on board right at the launch, it was a hard offer to turn down, so I was really excited. My twins were only a couple of months old at the time. And I was actually thinking that I was going to stay home with them for a while. But when he called, it was just, like I said, too good of a deal to pass down. I was like, yes, this sounds so fun and so interesting. So we began, in 2016. We have clients all over the country, really, from our work with nonprofits in South Carolina to some community-wide assessments that we've done in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and Waco, Texas. So we're really all over the place.
That's awesome. And it's so impressive that y'all have such a far reach just being around since 2016. So that's really incredible.
Yeah, it's really taken off, and we've been so excited and just kind of been rolling with it. And we've been blessed with the clients that we've had so far.
That's amazing. So outside of your role at 1000 Feathers, you're also really involved in your community, it seems. You have a lot of experience in the communications realm and also have held a lot of leadership positions. Has that been something that you've always been passionate about, being involved in your community?
Yeah, I think so. It's because of all of the people that have really invested so much time and energy into me. I feel like it's my duty and my responsibility to kind of do the same for others. Most recently have been an adjunct professor at Newberry College, and I really feel like that has been my way to pour back into students who will one day be out in the world, as PR professionals or communications professionals, and being able to take my experiences that I've learned in the field and combine that with what they can learn in Texas has been really helpful for students. And so I do feel like that's a little bit of the way that I've given back to the community here. But yeah, just being a leader is something I am very passionate about, whether that goes back to my days on the basketball court and tennis court way back when I used to play sports, to, being a director at a statewide nonprofit and leading a team there. And then most recently, as a professor in front of a classroom of students, I always encourage students and colleagues to take leadership roles because I really do believe that that's when we become our best selves. when you know that others are looking to you for advice and they're looking to you for that leadership, you're going to step up and you're going to be your best self. So I always encourage students and colleagues to take leadership roles when they're offered to them.
Absolutely. That's great advice. It's really impressive. I mean, you're doing a lot. You're a director, like you said, at a statewide nonprofit. You are a professor. You're a mother. How do you balance it all? What does a day in the life of Cayci look like?
Wow. How much time do we have? There a typical day, I guess, is the best question to ask, because I really don't think there is. So yes, I have a large family. My son is 9. His name is Lucas. My daughter is 5, McLean. And then we were surprised with twins there at the end. So Mary Georgia and Annie are, well, they will be 3 in May. So they're almost 3. So each day starts a little crazy, ends a little crazy, and then there's a lot of hard work and determination in between, I think. But the process of just getting 4 tiny humans out of the door every morning, I think, is a feat in of itself.
Yeah.
As far as work goes, there really isn't a typical day anymore in this consulting space, in the space of 1,000 Feathers, of working with multiple clients on multiple issues. And I think that's what really excites me. Having a creative brain, it really kind of gets my juices flowing when I'm not just solely thinking about one issue anymore. And when I was at the South Carolina Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy, that was one issue for about a decade, an issue I became extremely passionate about. And loved every minute of working there. But it is exciting now to get to work with clients across the spectrum. Everything from working on still some teen and unintended pregnancy prevention projects, to rural health in South Carolina, to early childhood education in North Carolina, to helping tell the story of a 5-year-long colorectal cancer project for the American Cancer Society. So it's just literally no 2 projects have been the same, which again, for my creative, really what I thrive on. One day I might be co-facilitating a strategic planning retreat in Waco, with a public health district there. But the next I might be designing internal employee documents for, a corporation. So I don't always know what the day is going to hold. And I think that's what excites me the most.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to be able to kind of dabble in a lot of different areas with your job. So I know that's how my role is too. And I really appreciate that. So my next question is, I know that we discussed that conducting digital footprint reviews is something that you do as part of your role. Can you kind of walk us through what that process looks like?
Sure. So digital footprint reviews are a way to take a look at a client's digital presence. And that includes everything from their website to social media properties that they have to e-newsletters, if they have one of those. Any digital properties that are touching their sphere of influence, we want to take a look at and see what's happening there. I'm really passionate about this part of our work because as a former director of a statewide nonprofit, I know what it's like to work for a nonprofit. And I was blessed that by the time I left the campaign, I had a 4 or 5 member communications department. That is not the norm at most nonprofits. Some nonprofits don't even have one communications person on staff. So to think that they're going to have the time when they're wearing so many hats at a nonprofit to stop and really just take a breath and look at their digital footprint, for most nonprofits, that's just not going to happen. And so it's become a passion of mine to be able to go in and really get a look at what's happening on the digital footprint, and then be able to give some recommendations to the nonprofits based on what we're seeing. So we take a look at Google Insights. We go into the back end of their website and look at everything from audience, who is that audience, the traffic, how are they getting to their website, what content are they consuming while they're there, all of the great data that is supplied by Google Insights, we take a look at there. And then go on to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They all have the insights and the analytics piece built in. So a lot of our clients, sometimes they don't even know that there was that insights portion of Facebook, or that they can access this information. So we're able to go in again, see who is that audience, what are they engaging with the most on Facebook? Because on Facebook, we know that engagement is really what keeps you in others' feeds. So if you're not getting that engagement, your posts most likely aren't even being seen by your followers. So we try to help them better understand who it is they're talking to, what messages are being consumed, and the messages that are really resonating with that audience so that they can push more of that kind of messaging. And sometimes, you know, when we tell them who that audience is, they have this light bulb moment where they're like, that's not even who we thought we were talking to, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, their messaging might need to shift, or they might need to start doing things that will attract the audience that they really are wanting to see. Or it might be that they're on the wrong social media platform altogether, but that they thought, oh, this is the new shiny platform, we've got to be over there, and really it might not be working for them at all. So it's been a really interesting aspect of our work and a really important piece of our work that we're bringing to our clients.
That's awesome. When you're conducting those, what is one area of digital marketing, digital strategy that you find organizations don't have a good understanding of? I know you mentioned they might not be like spot on with who their target audience is. Are there any other aspects that you find that they just don't have a good grasp on?
You know, I really just think it's the strategy, right? So when you say digital strategy, I think a lot of times organizations don't have that strategy. They just think we've got to be on social media, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're like, we're going to jump on Facebook because that's where we should be. Or we're going to jump on Twitter because that's where, you know, everybody says we should be. But there's no strategy in place. There's no goal. What is your goal when you and your organization get onto Twitter? Each platform should have a goal, should have an audience that you're trying to reach. And if you cannot pinpoint what those goals are, if you can't pinpoint that you're reaching that audience that you need to be reaching, you may not need to be there at all. So I think it's that strategy piece, you know, instead of just doing, have we really stopped and thought about where we need to be and why we need to be there? And I think that question of why is really important for organizations. You know, if they tell me, oh, we're on Snapchat, why?
Yep.
Why are you on Snapchat? Who are you trying to reach? So I think it's the strategy piece.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So when you basically collect all this data and runs essentially an audit on their digital marketing, how does your team then take that data and create a plan of action for the organizations you're working with?
Sure. So we always end each digital footprint review with a set of recommendations. So a concrete set of recommendations, whether that's 4, 5, 6, whatever that comes out to, recommendations for the client. So depending on what I've found, I'm able to make those solid recommendations on what they could do or should do. So for example, in some clients with Google Analytics, we've seen speed issues where organizations don't even realize this, but their website is taking 14, 15, 16 seconds on average to load as someone's trying to view it. Well, you and I know that no one's going to wait more than 2 to 3 seconds for a page to load,
right?
Before they click out and get annoyed. I mean, think about how many times you've been on your phone and you're like, oh, it's taking forever to load. Really, it's been probably 2 or 3 seconds, and you click out of it.
Yeah.
So for some clients, it's as simple as that. You need to work with your webmaster to figure out why these page load times are so high, and we really need to condense that, because we're seeing people exit your site and the bounce rate being extremely high, and that's probably one of the reasons, or the main reason. So sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes it's messaging issues. Sometimes it's we didn't know that was the audience where we were reaching. And now what do we need to do to shift some of our messaging to better reach that audience? So it really depends on what we found, but we always come up with some concrete recommendations that they can do moving forward. And for an organization that may or may not have anyone working on communications, we found that it's really important to give those concrete steps of here's what you need to do. Here's 5 things that could really help your digital footprint right now. And that's been very helpful for our clients.
Awesome. Yeah, I can imagine that's super beneficial, having those recommendations laid out for them. So you're working with 1,000 Feathers is working with government agencies, nonprofits, other community-focused type organizations. How have you seen those industries shifting since your time working with them? And what would be your recommendations for how those types of industries can shift to kind of respond to that in order to be sustainable moving forward?
I think we've seen a deliberate shift to outcomes. So in other words, more attention is being paid to impact, whereas in the past, nonprofits were like check boxes, like, right, we've done this, we're doing this. And they were counting things, but that's not really happening anymore. It's about what impact those things are making on individuals and communities. It's so data driven now.
Yep.
And funding is more tied to outcomes, I think, more now than ever before. So as a result, organizations must be able to tell their story. And that's where communications comes into play. You have to be able to explain to funders and potential donors and current donors why your work matters, what impact that work is making on the community, and the greater kind of impact that it's having, in all. So we've got to be able to help clients and people who need to understand how to tell their story better and to show that what they're doing is actually working.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, we see more of an emphasis, I think, on digital communications, obviously, in 2019, shifting away from hard copy newsletters to using digital platforms, for example. But organizations need to continue to realize that this takes deliberate effort and skill, kind of that strategy piece I was talking about earlier. It's not enough just to say, we've got a Facebook, we've got a Twitter, and then post on it 4 times a month, right? I mean, there has to be deliberate and strategic effort behind these platforms, or they're just not making sense for you. And also, I always tell clients that social media is meant to be social. So if you're just continuously pushing out your own agenda and it's all about me, and you're not embracing and kind of lifting up those around you and community members and talking about your volunteers and, bringing the larger community into some of your messaging, I think you're missing the boat, because it really was built and meant to be social. So if we're not listening to others and interacting with others and we're just solely pushing our own agenda, I think we're missing out on what social media could really be for us. And then there's also been a shift in focus to collective impact. And I don't necessarily mean the strategy, because collective impact is its own branded strategy, but more so like the concept. There are so many nonprofits in a more crowded than ever funding environment that they need to find creative ways to work together and to leverage resources. So this is true across sectors, including nonprofits and government agencies. We see now more than ever kind of communities coming together to address an issue, not siloed off doing their own thing, but government agencies and nonprofits and community leaders really tackling issues together in more of that like collective impact type strategy.
Right. That is really interesting. And I think definitely what you said about it's not just about checking the box anymore. Just we have a Facebook, sure, we've got an Instagram. It really is important for everyone just to take a step back and make sure you're being intentional with everything you're doing with your digital marketing. There's so many options out there and there's so many things that we think that we should be doing. But if it's not right for our goals and our intentions as an organization, then it's not right for us. So I think that's super valuable advice that you just gave.
Yeah.
So for an organization looking to expand their digital presence, where would you recommend they start?
I always recommend you start with who is your audience. And, in public relations and communications, that's kind of ingrained in us, right? It's who are you trying to reach? And digital marketing is no different. Who are the key publics that you're trying to reach? What motivates those publics? So it's not just enough to know who they are. You've got to know what motivates them, what makes them want to get involved with your nonprofit, what makes them want to volunteer, what makes them want to donate to your organization. And then where can you find those publics? So again, not just hopping on every social media platform that comes out, but deliberately knowing who that audience is and where they are. Because if you're trying to reach a 15-year-old, it's a much different platform than if you're trying to reach a young mom with young kids. I mean, we all are kind of doing our own thing and going in different directions digitally. So you need to understand who that public is, what motivates them, and where you can find them, where you can reach them. You cannot be all things to all people. And that's what I tried. Yeah. One of my least favorite terms is we're just going to reach the general public. No, you're not going to reach the general public. Like, I just wish everyone would take general public out of their vernacular, because you have to know that specific audience that you're really trying to reach in order to reach your goals.
Definitely. I know here at DuBose Web, we're huge on defining your personas for both ourselves and all of our partners. So I definitely think that's super valuable and definitely the best starting point for someone looking to expand their digital presence. So next, I really like to do this with everyone I interview, just some rapid fire questions, just so we can get to know you better, just a fun thing to do. So what was your first job?
My first job was at the Blossom Shop in Bishopville, which is where I'm from. Very, very small town, Bishopville, South Carolina. It was at the Blossom Shop, so it was my aunt's florist, and it was one of my favorite jobs. I got to do deliveries and help her in the store, answering phones and working with customers. So I learned a lot from my aunt during those years, working with her during the summer.
Yeah, that sounds like a lovely first job.
Oh, it was. It was. I mean, just the smiles that I got to see every day, delivering flowers and balloons on their birthday and Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. It was a really great job.
Super cool. What are you currently reading or listening to?
So my husband and I just went on a cruise a couple weeks ago, and I started Becoming by Michelle Obama. And it has been an awesome book that I highly recommend. I'm not finished yet, but I'm about halfway done. So I'm reading that right now. And guilty pleasures, I'm binge watching The Americans. I know I'm late to the game on that one, but I'm binge watching The Americans, and also the documentary that's on HBO right now, following up on the Adnan Syed case, which was made really popular by the podcast Serial. Just finished this Sunday, so I won't spoil it for anyone who might not have seen it, but I'm now back obsessed with that case. Listened to Serial when it first came out, and now I'm back obsessed with Adnan Syed, his case. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm watching and reading right now.
Awesome. Where did you go on your cruise?
To the Bahamas. It was my best friend's 40th birthday, so we took a little adult cruise down to the Bahamas for a few days.
So fun. What is the coolest thing that you're working on right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I'm going to take your word coolest and change that to most fulfilling, because we really are working with some amazing nonprofits right now who are really changing the game in their respective fields. So I just want to give them a little shout out. We are working with, Camp Happy Days in Charleston, which is like Kids Kicking Cancer. It's a camp down in Charleston. So I'm really excited. We're just kicking off with them, and I can't wait to learn more about that organization and work with them. Momentum Bike Clubs, which is a youth development organization in Greenville, who uses bicycling as a way to mentor young people. They are a phenomenal organization. We've been working with them for probably about 6 months now, and I'm just loving everything that they do. And Future Minds, which is a statewide educational organization in South Carolina, they're doing great stuff, and we've really just kicked off with them recently, and the Free Medical Clinic in Columbia. So lots of different, again, issues that we're getting to put our brains on, which is just so fulfilling.
Yeah.
for our firm.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure that's so inspiring to get to work with organizations like that that have such a powerful mission. So that's really awesome. What is the best advice you've ever received?
I feel like that's a loaded question. This is easy for me because my dad has always said to me to take life one day at a time. And
Mm-hmm.
he's been telling me that since I was a little girl. So I feel like it's just been ingrained in me since I was little. But it's advice you really need to take to heart because we can't erase what happened yesterday. And we don't know what will happen tomorrow, but we can live in the moment and we can take today and this little chunk of time that we have, right? This is what we're promised is today.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just take it one day at a time, I think we're all better off.
Definitely. It's great advice. And my last question is, who inspires you?
Oh my God, this is probably the hardest question that you've asked me because there are just so many people. I could literally list off a number of names for you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, my mom has always been a big influence in my life, and my dad, my parents have been such inspirations to me. But instead, I'm going to take this a little bit different direction. And more so give you a group of people because I think this working mom job, it's not easy. It's often filled with lots of guilt and the inability to be in multiple places at one time. I was just in Waco, Texas a few weeks ago and I missed my son's soccer game, and so it's the doubts of, am I doing the right thing? But it's also super rewarding. And in the end, I think I'm showing my three daughters that they can be powerful in many different ways. They can be rock star moms, but they can also kill it in whatever it is that they decide to do professionally. So I hope I'm being a role model to them. And I'm inspired by other working moms that I see out there and really this community of support that I've started feeling more and more for working moms in my kind of sphere of influence and how we're really just starting to support one another because we do understand the guilt that is felt from being a working mom. And I'm going to get in trouble because I am going to say just a few names, but I could list off a lot more than this. But my friend Megan Carrero, who is a principal of a middle school in Lexington while raising two boys, while also working towards her PhD. I mean, wow, like that's inspiring, like that you can juggle all of those things at one time. My friend Ashley, who started her own PR firm and is a single mom of two young girls and is just building her business, and wow, inspirational. And Rosalind Goodwin, who I've looked up to for a long time, she was a board member of ours at the South Carolina Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy. And she has two small children. She's a vice president at the South Carolina Hospital Association. And her daughter is now like one of the youngest entrepreneurs who has started her own company of Gabby Bows and has taken that nationwide. So I am just inspired by these and many, 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 many other working moms. And I'm so proud of the kind of support that we're all giving one another through this.
That is such an amazing answer. And I'm inspired by you just talking to you today, hearing everything that you have on your plate and how you're just rocking it all. So I love that answer. I'm definitely inspired by working moms as well. Our creative director is a mother of two. And I literally sat her down one day. I was like, how do you do it? Because I just don't know how you do it and continue to like show up every day and just be so awesome. So
yeah, I think it goes back to that. What was the best piece of advice? Like, take it one day at a time.
Yes.
Four children and a job and everything else, you definitely just have to take it one day at a time.
Yep. That's the only way to do it. Awesome. So that is all of the questions that I have for you today, other than just where can people go to learn more about 1000 Feathers?
Sure. We are online at 1000feathers.com. And we'd also love for your viewers to follow us on social media. We are at 1000_feathers on Twitter and facebook.com/1000feathers.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Cayci. I think this was such a great conversation, and I hope that our viewers are getting some great value out of this. It was great talking to you. That's all we have for you today, everyone. We will be back on DWG TV soon. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, where we'll be giving you updates just as what we're doing, sharing our blogs, as well as you'll find out when the next episode of DWG TV is. So definitely give us a like there, follow along with us so you can find out what we're up to. But yeah, hope you got some great value out of this conversation today. And thank you again, Cayci, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Bye, guys.